knocking out two more 2020 films that are awards contenders this season. We're going to talk right now about Wolfwalkers and the personal history of David Copperfield. Hey everybody, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my spoiler-free review for a couple of late entries in 2020 that are now getting some awards buzz, and indeed, both of them nominated for Golden Globes. Will they be nominated at the Oscars? That remains to be seen. We're talking about Wolfwalkers and the personal history of David Copperfield. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Nice to have you here. Please consider subscribing, liking, or sharing this video. All of that helps my channel if you do dig what you're about to see here. So why did I lump these movies together? Wolfwalkers, personal history of David Copperfield. All right, well, as I'm sort of getting through the last couple dozen 2020 movies, I'm going to have a standalone review for a bunch of documentaries I saw. Going to have a standalone review for a bunch of the Netflix awards contenders, a couple of awards contenders on HBO Max, and these just sort of, they just didn't have a place. There's one on Apple TV Plus, which is Wolfwalkers, and then David Copperfield, that was released to theaters in September. Of course, not many people saw it because of the way theaters are these days, and it came out recently on DVD, but both got Golden Globe nominated, and they're both rated PG. They're both kind of family movies, so I thought, you know what, let's just lump them in together. I don't think either one needs to be dissected in an 11 or 12-minute standalone video like I've been doing recently, so let's just toss them together and see what happens. So we're going to do Wolfwalkers first, because I think that has the best chances at Oscar contention, because the animated film category is not going to be very stacked this year, I don't think, because you're going to have certainly Onward, yeah, you're going to have Soul, definitely, but other than that, I don't know. Croods 2 probably we can assume will be part of the mix, but this movie Wolfwalkers is the third of a trilogy of Celtic animated films done by Cartoon Saloon, the production company, and this is by director Tom Moore and Ross Stewart. They did Secret of Kells, they did Song of the Sea. Both of those got nominated for Best Animated Feature, so there's no reason to think that this one won't, especially with so few animated movies out in 2020. So this one, basically, it doesn't necessarily follow, you know, the same characters or anything, but it's all sort of, you know, the same look and feel throughout all of these movies. And in this one, we've got a young apprentice hunter named Robin who journeys to Ireland with her father to kind of wipe out the last of the wolf packs. And so she decides to run off, explore some hidden lands outside the city walls, and there she befriends a free-spirited girl who's a member of a mysterious tribe rumored to have the ability to actually transform into wolves by night. They search for this gal's missing mother, and while on that journey, Robin uncovers a secret that draws her further into that world as well. So, like I said, this is rated PG. It is a family film, but it's definitely pretty dark for some of the animated stuff we see today. Yeah, Pixar does some dark things here and there, but a lot of this movie harkens back to some of the classic Disney days in the 50s, really through, I would say, the 90s, in both tone, themes, atmosphere, all of that kind of thing. And that is probably, I think, the biggest downfall of this film, is that it is a little bit familiar. It's, you know, it's not story-wise giving us necessarily anything that new, but if you liked those other two movies I mentioned from the Celtic trilogy, I think you will really like this. You'll be drawn in by the animation, no pun intended when I say drawn in, but this for me is personally a style of animation I don't really fall in love with. You know, a lot of people are really like loving this style. Personally, it's not one of my favorites, but it is 2D animation, which I love. So that's certainly got something going for it. And the other thing that I think sets this one apart a little bit from the others in the series is that it actually is not just one animation style. The main animation style in this movie is the same as the others. It's you know, sort of blocky characters, and I don't know. I think a little bit about Picasso when I see these characters, but the backgrounds are very different. Some scenes have 2 or 3 different styles of animation just in the same scene, which I think is really, really cool. Also, the voice work here is great. The only name I really recognize from the list is Sean Bean. And of course, he's a classic from, Lord of the Rings and so many things. But everybody else, Tommy Tiernan, Eva Whittaker, Honor, Keefsley, Paul Young, John Morton. I don't know any of these people, but everybody does a pretty good job. Sean Bean plays the hunter father, and he's great in this. So good voice work. And there is some really good themes here. Like I said, maybe none of them are brand new, but I think, for family movies, you could certainly do worse than some of the themes presented here, like, being true to yourself, finding out who you really are despite what anybody else says, and, believing in yourself. These are all great themes that I think kids need in movies today. And look, Pixar gives us a lot of those themes too. Onward is a great example, as is Soul, to name 2 movies that will be in contention for this one at the Oscars, I'm sure. And look, as a critic, I try to put aside some of my own personal biases. Yes, the animation style isn't necessarily for me, but I don't think it's ugly per se. It just doesn't draw me in quite as much as some others. And so people that love Secret of Kells, I think, will probably love this even more than me. I think it's got a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes or something. I'm not quite that high on this movie, but I think it might be my favorite of the 3. I forget what I gave Secret of Kells. Secret of Kells had a much more original story, though. So I don't know. Maybe it's along those same lines, because I think the biggest downfall for this one really is the more pedestrian storyline that we've seen a lot of times in a lot of different animated movies, mostly Disney, to be honest, but a little bit maybe like How to Train Your Dragon and that kind of thing over the years. So I'm going to leave Wolfwalkers with a B+. Let's talk about David Copperfield now. It's called The Personal History of David Copperfield, and this was directed by Armando Iannucci, who's known mostly, I would say, for his Jane Austen work, and here we're doing Dickens, so another classic author, and we see Dev Patel here as David Copperfield. Now, this is a very, I don't want to say it's overly PC, but it's a, it's a cast of just racially blind casting. Like it doesn't matter. Like Dev Patel, I don't think we ever envisioned reading David Copperfield 150 years ago that, maybe an Indian actor would be playing David Copperfield, but it all works here. Dev Patel, I think, is one of the great underrated actors of the last 10 or 15 years. He doesn't ever come up in conversations, but everything he's in, he's usually the best part of it. Slumdog, Lion, he was so good in. And what's great about him playing David Copperfield is it's the first time I can remember that Dev Patel has played something where his Indian heritage doesn't necessarily play a part. It plays no part at all. It doesn't matter that he's, born of Indian descent. It matters not at all. And I think that's great. I think we need more of that sort of, color blindness in these, made-up characters. They can be whoever. And so I think that's great. And he leads up a real stellar cast. You've got Peter Capaldi, Hugh Laurie, Tilda Swinton, Ben Whishaw, a lot of, what I would say underrated performers. Tilda Swinton, I think people are finally realizing how great she is, but she still, I don't think, has yet to lead a movie that's been a big hit, right? Usually she's supporting, and she's supporting here as well. But this takes us from David's abusive childhood through sort of his teen years, where he's working in a factory, where he's living with the Peter Capaldi character and his family, who are, in debt to these creditors that are after them and all of this stuff. So he escapes from there and ends up living with his aunt, Betsy, for a while, who's Tilda Swinton. And, there's a lot of love in here as well. He's got a love interest. So let's talk about, the best part, I think, is the casting of this movie. Dev Patel is so great in the role. He brings this joy to David Copperfield, but that's almost the negative too, because, Jane Austen, look, her movies are kind of funny and, they're usually tongue-in-cheek and all of this. But Dickens novels are usually like about the downtrodden and the horrors of being poor and like all of this kind of thing. And this movie doesn't necessarily reflect that. A little bit with like, yeah, he's working in a warehouse and it stinks and whatever, or the factory, whatever. But it's kind of cheeky and funny at times and very whimsical. And I think I don't think I've read the book David Copperfield, but I've read some Dickens, and certainly, we know Christmas Carol and Oliver Twist. And it granted, yes, they turned Oliver into a musical in the 60s, but it was still very much all about being poor. Here it's like almost always look on the bright side of life kind of stuff, that I don't think necessarily meshes well with the themes at hand. So I can appreciate maybe what they're trying to do, but I'm not sure how well it worked out. I did enjoy watching this movie, although it does take a good, I would say, 25 to 30 minutes to really, get started. And then the last like hour and 20 minutes, I'm all in. I really enjoyed it once I kind of got it. Really, I guess it's when Dev Patel really starts standing up for himself. The David Copperfield character really starts standing up for himself at the factory, and then I'm like, okay, I can get behind this guy. Like he's really sticking it to the man, this and that, and that's great. But the little kid David Copperfield at the beginning, and I didn't really care so much about that. But I think this movie is very good for families for sure. I don't know how, like, if you've read the book, I don't know. I've read a couple of different things where it's like one person's like, yes, this is directly from the book. It's kind of a greatest hits, but it's directly from the book. And then another person was like, this veered so far off the book, I can't even take it. So I don't know. I can only grade it on what I saw in the movie, which was, to me, not bad. I think it's a little more whimsical and sort of tongue-in-cheek than it should be, for a Dickens adaptation or for the subject matter. It reminded me a little bit of The Greatest Showman. Like it would be like The Greatest Showman is actually P.T. Barnum's such a jerk in real life and all these stories, but like they made this great musical out of his life and it's great. But if you took away all the amazing songs, and told the real story, it would be a much different movie, much more down, and that kind of thing. I feel like that's kind of what we get here. But in any event, I'm going to leave the personal history of David Copperfield with a B. I'm not sure what Dev Patel's chances are at the Oscars as a leading actor. I think it's actually a much better actress year because you've got so many good leading actress performances. For the actors, I don't know. You certainly have to nominate Chadwick Boseman for a great performance. And of course, since he passed last year in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Other than that, I don't know. It could be up in the air for several different people. I still haven't seen The Father, but usually Anthony Hopkins is good for a nomination. But the Oscars do love Dev Patel. He's been nominated a couple of times before. So I could honestly see another nomination coming his way for this role. But I would put my money, of the two of them, on Wolfwalkers for a Best Animated Feature nomination. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and we will see you back here next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.